All right, we should be online. I hear ya. All right, so we're gonna sheep herd you back to TYT. That's what Guard Gnome is gonna do tonight, and I will assist. I will be the. I don't know. Do you want to be Anna tonight or Jenks?
I always want to be Anna.
Of course. I don't watch enough of them to do good Jenks impressions.
Of course.
There you go. That's much better. Way better than I could do that. Does he do that now, or has it gotten to him that people do that? So
I tried watching a few minutes of it the other day, and he did it. And I only watched 10 minutes of it, and he did it at least once.
Okay, so
maybe
he still
twice.
does it. That's funny. Oh my goodness. Maybe people like that. Maybe that's what gets people to keep watching.
People like catchphrases, man.
Yeah,
they like them.
I need to think of a lame catchphrase. It's hard. Because you want something cool, but
Let's see.
What generates a lot of buzz is the dumb ones. All right. You look for some videos, and I'll look for some videos. Let's see.
Pick one out, man. Let's see. I'll try to look. I'll try to find something. See what we've got here.
All right. Let's see if people on chat want to help me pick as well.
Yes, chat. If you have any favorite clips from TYT.
So here's kind of a list. Police Chief, Piers Morgan, Republican, Trump, Democrats, Russians hacked Democratic emails immediately after blah. Mueller, breaking 12 Russian spies indicted for election. Stormy Daniels, Papa John says N-word during meeting. Congressman caught investing in for profit. Ocasio-Cortez, yacht inside yacht.
A couple of people have already covered it, but it might be worth covering, and that's the Jank debates the Ohio Green Party candidate. Type that in, it should pop up. But it's such a clear example of the direction TYT has gone.
5 days ago?
Yeah, it was just in the last few days.
Jeff, thanks for putting the conference together. Thank you for putting this panel together. I think it's really important.
This isn't it?
Nope, it's Ohio or Jank debates Ohio Green Party candidate or something. There it is, right at the top.
Joining us is Constance Goodell Newton. She is a candidate for governor in Ohio.
Let's preface this before
really
we start.
appreciate.
Okay, go ahead.
So many of you might have already seen this clip. A few people have covered it already, but we're going to go over it here. And the first thing I'd like you to notice is the fact that they don't even mention her name in the title of the video. Okay, so for all of those people out there who are saying, oh, TYT deserves credit for at least giving her a platform, well, that's the first point.
Her name is Constance Goodell Newton.
Yeah, they put it in the show notes,
Yeah.
but why isn't it in the title?
Yeah, I know. That's funny. Okay, go ahead.
So let's we can continue here.
And
But
usually,
that's the first thing.
And usually, they should show her name, like when they first introduce them. You know, like a caption, like normal news, like they're trying to mimic.
Her and her background and her experience and her policy positions, but I'm not sure that I'm fully supportive. How's that for an intro? So, Constance, let's talk it through, okay? First of all, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that the Green Party does not get a lot of outlets, and I think that it's really important that the audience.
Let's pause it right there.
From everybody.
Notice how Jank immediately comes in and he starts to prime the audience with the idea that he is giving her a platform.
Yep.
That's the first thing he does, is he tries to prime the audience. See, we're fair here at TYT. Okay, but as the interview continues, like, we might see otherwise.
Okay. And no name. He just says Constance. There's usually no name indicator, and that's what they should do.
It's basic internet etiquette, if you want to call it that, to put the person's name in the title of the video if they're running for office or pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Because it gets people to go visit their website or whatever.
And what they're running for, right? Is it House of Representatives, Senate, Governor, Mayor, etc.?
Good point. Like, there's no indication of that.
And knows what their choices are. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, first let's talk about your policy positions and why you're running. So you are running on the Green Party ticket, not the Democratic ticket. So talk to us about why you think you'd make a better governor for Ohio.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Constance Goodell-Newton. I'm running as a Green for governor of Ohio. And as a Green Party candidate...
Okay, there it is. All right. So it was just a little bit late, but there it is. What we're complaining about earlier.
Well, again, it's not in the title. Like,
okay,
her
still,
name and what she's running for should be in the fucking title. And she had to say it.
True. Oh, one thing to look at: 6,136 views. It's compared to views that they normally get. I mean, they have views where it can go up to 141,000. But you know, it depends on what people are watching. But like a lot of the views are usually in the 50 plus to however a couple 100,000 even, depending on what it is. But this one barely broke. It didn't even break 10,000. All right, just want to point that out.
We do not accept corporate donations. We really are just trying to represent the people of Ohio, the people in our state. And so we're running, as a Green, I get to run a campaign based on my principles and my truly held beliefs because I'm not beholden to those corporate interests. So we're running to promote universal health care for workers' rights and the fight for 15. And so many other things. We would like an immediate moratorium on fracking with a super fund for workers to transition to green energy and to promote locally owned green energy co-ops and other locally owned businesses in Ohio. To end school segregation in Ohio, which still exists because schools are funded based on property taxes. So we'd like to do away with that system. And for a lot of criminal law reforms, such as decriminalization and ending the private prison industry in Ohio that's exploiting Ohioans.
So, Constance,
all right. My opinion, I don't know what your opinion is. All that sounded good to me.
Oh, yeah. Like, she's a Green Party candidate.
Yep. All right. Let's see what Jake says.
Yeah, let's continue.
That all sounds great, and I'm totally in favor of that. I love that you're running without corporate PAC money, and that means you'll be accountable to the people. So where's my issue? Well, this is definitely not true in all races, and I think the mainstream media generally does a terrible job of covering the Green Party, and all they'll ever ask is this question. But in this race, I actually think it is a relevant question. You've got Richard Cordray, who was the former head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, who was running as a Democrat.
Okay.
I invite anyone to go look up Cordray's record. Like, go look at it, and you tell me if Cordray is a progressive. He was assigned to the Consumer Protection Bureau. Okay, the bureau returned $12 billion in consumer funding, right? That's the bureau doing that. That's not Cordray coming in and being like, coming into the organization and doing anything revolutionary. That's the function of the organization. You know, giving him special credit for that, as I've seen other people do, is ridiculous. And when you look at the amount of PAC money he takes and who he takes it from, you go ahead and tell me, like, if this guy is a, quote, progressive. We can look it up now if you want, but yeah, might as well.
Oh, well, yeah, we can look at it later.
He's taken money from everyone, from energy companies to, you know, the list goes on.
Okay.
He's just the standard fundraising activities.
Sure, we'll look at it later.
That's a pretty solid progressive in a state that really could go either way, and the Democrat could easily lose that race. So why run against Cordray?
Well, it's that hey, it's too close. Why would you run against another progressive thing again? That's been done time and time again, hasn't it?
Yep. And who is doing it? Any guesses?
All right.
Could it be the Hillary camp and the DNC? Has that been their fucking pat answer for the last year?
Yeah. All right, here we go.
A couple reasons. First of all, I'm the only candidate who is pushing this agenda that is really the people's agenda. It's an activist informed campaign. So we're listening to people who are working on these issues like SPAN, the Single Payer Action Network. And also, I would just say that because of the corporate interests that both of the candidates have, they are compromised and they're not able to really fully represent the people in the best way possible. So, for instance, an article just came out in the Cincinnati Enquirer that talked about how Mike DeWine, as Attorney General, has given contracts to a lot of his donors, and that Richard Cordray, who was actually his predecessor in that position, also has offered a lot of contracts to people who've donated to their campaign funds. These are people who are collecting debts from the people of Ohio. So I think that it's absolutely relevant, and that as a Green Party candidate, I'm able to provide the people another choice in our broken democracy and our broken two-party system that really hasn't represented the people's interests very well. The Republicans and Democrats have not represented women well. They haven't represented people of color. They haven't represented the peace movement well. And so that is something that I provide as an alternative so that the voters can have a voice and a choice in our democracy.
So is Cordray still taking corporate PAC money?
Yes, I believe so. I don't believe that's changed.
Okay.
All right, pause it there. Pause it there.
So,
Right. And by the way, welcome Dave, for Independent
Dave?
Outsider.
All right, like, this is his big issue, right? Candidates taking PAC money. You know, this is Wolfpack's big issue. This is Justice Democrats' big issue. This is TYT's big issue. He doesn't even apparently know if Cordray is taking PAC money or not, which takes about 5 fucking minutes of research to do to find out. Really, you go to any article on it, type in Cordray PAC, it will come up with a result. He doesn't even know it. And he's willing to support Cordray over this candidate. Yeah. Does anybody have any guesses why?
Dave,
I know exactly why.
Right,
I know exactly why.
I bet you do, Dave.
Well, this candidate that's on the screen right now, she's one of the few candidates that I actually thought about interviewing because she looks like she's half decent, and that's exactly why he doesn't want to endorse her. I mean, I just found out TYT is actively endorsing CIA candidates who actually advertise that they are ex-CIA. So, what else do I have to say?
Well, they'll push whoever they're told to push at this point. I think that they're on a $20 million choke chain.
Yeah.
Make it 26. Isn't it more than 20?
Well, you know, they got a quote loan of $20 million, and the investors expect a return. So yes, it's 20 million plus.
Right.
You know, those investors just need to be invited to those orgies. That's all I'm saying.
On the other hand, okay, let me just ask it as a question. Would you concede that he did a great job at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in holding banks accountable?
I can't really speak to that. I'm sorry. Okay.
All right. So just last thing, that's a logical chain of questioning here, and I'm sure you're used to it. And again, I'm sorry. I'm sure that this is all that anybody ever asks you, but in this race, it is relevant. Are you worried that taking away votes from Cordray would lead to Mike DeWine, who's clearly worse, being elected governor of Ohio?
I understand the concern there, but what I would say is that there are so many unaffiliated voters in Ohio. Only about 30% of people actually vote in a good year. So I think that if the Democrats cannot get the votes that they need, then they need to change something. And we're really reaching out to unaffiliated voters and people across the political spectrum and bringing these new ideas, these alternatives. What we see right now is so much polarization in the political debate. So you see the gun debate, the abortion debate, all these, and there's so much polarization between the left and the right. And I believe that we're really able to bring an alternative voice and be, think freely about those issues and really try to represent all Ohioans. So that is my goal. I'm certainly not trying to steal votes from the Democrats. And I think that it's really their responsibility to court those voters themselves. I do provide an alternative, and we're really trying to represent all Ohioans in this race.
Yeah, look,
I think that was well put. I like that answer.
Me too.
I like it too.
Never.
I don't need to hear.
Everybody's got to hear votes. Nobody's stealing anybody else's votes. It's just a question of, picking your battles, but this is your battle. So you get to make that call. And so let's talk about some of your past experience. You did advocacy on behalf of prisoners facing supermax.
Okay, so note the timestamp.
Yep.
We are now at 7 minutes and 10 seconds.
In an 11-minute
where he has done
interview.
nothing but fucking drill her about why she's running.
Yeah.
Now
I got a question. I got a question. Did he mention anything about her legal experience? Did he mention that she helped get Cynthia McKinney on the presidential ballot?
Nope, she didn't. He did not.
Well, and that brings me.
I just did. I need to interview this woman.
Yeah, you should.
That brings me to the next point. That notice during this next part of the interview, he will give her an opportunity to talk about some of the points in her platform, etc. But it's a series of rapid fire questions that he never explores. So anybody who's telling me that TYT is doing a good job by giving a Green Party candidate a platform can fuck off.
Yeah.
Because they're not. Again, we're at 7 minutes and 10 seconds. Yeah. Watch how the rest of the interview plays out.
An 11-minute interview. I mean, our interviews can go to like 2 hours. Have you noticed?
11 fucking minutes.
I'll talk till y'all want to go to sleep. Shit, I don't care.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Solitary confinement. That's an issue I care deeply about. I think what we do in solitary confinement is literally a crime against humanity. So can you tell us about what you learned from that experience?
Yes, there are so many criminal issues and prison issues that I've become aware of over my years of activism. So solitary confinement in particular is a really cruel and unusual punishment. It's very isolating to the individual. Sometimes it is used if someone is just a troublemaker within the prison system or has certain political views, but it's a very cruel means of punishment. In addition to that, I would just say that I do oppose the death penalty, and as governor, I would not sign off on death warrants. And I believe that one of the biggest problems in our society right now, and I am a defense attorney, so I'm a bit biased, is just the over-criminalization of so many things in our society. There's the drug war, which has really that's been politically motivated, and the incarceration complex, the prison industrial complex that's for profit that we have in Ohio.
Mm-hmm. And if you're elected governor, would you
no follow on to the next question.
Yep.
For health coverage, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then finally, Constance, talk to me about your pathway to victory. So what's the battle plan to get enough votes so that it's not just a moral victory, but an actual victory where you can get actually more votes than the Democratic or Republican candidates?
Thank you. Yes. Well, as a third-party candidate and a candidate with multiple candidates running, we could win with as little as 34% of the vote. So we just want to remind people, yes, I'm aware that I'm an underdog, but this is also a pioneer's path forward in politics. And we're really just trying to represent all Ohioans. I have a great team of people supporting me, Greens and new Greens from across the state. And we have a lot of true believers, a lot of young people who are willing to put themselves out there and make sacrifices so that we can make some headway in politics and create a pathway to victory for me and for other candidates in the future that are Greens, that are independents, that are really trying to offer people more choices in our political system. I mean, what I see really is that the party establishment and the Democrat and Republican parties are choosing the candidates through gerrymandering, with backroom deals, deciding who's going to run an unopposed race for judge. Sometimes, all these things that happen that really undercut our democracy and don't allow the people to actually decide who's the best candidate. So,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
So we're out of time, but I thought for a second there you said bath.
What? What?
So we're out of time.
That almost reminds me of the scene in Bulworth. I'm surprised he didn't have a spotlight fucking come down from his studio and freaking shut the interview down. Jesus Christ.
All right, let's see how he ends it.
Backroom deals instead of backroom deals, but that would probably be more fitting, right? The website is constanceforohio.com, constanceforohio.com. You can check it out there. Constance Goodell Newton, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and what you do.
Thank you.
You're far more gracious than I would be.
That was probably the one thing that I disagreed with her about. I don't appreciate what the fuck he does.
Oh man, now I know why I just cut off from everything. And you're the better person to probably interview her, Dave, because I think I've got a bigger tinfoil hat than you do now.
I don't know about that.
Our fucking monkey could have done a better job than that.
Oh man, that
was a terrible interview.
It's Constance Goodell Newton. Look, I will be in Ohio in a couple of weeks probably.
Oh.
Barring, my mom isn't feeling well, so barring anything that happens with her, I will be in Ohio. I don't know if I'm going to be in her general area, but I can make it because she has experience people need to know about.
Yeah.
She has litigating experience. Typically, I'm not a huge fan of lawyers, but some of the things that she's done, yeah. She's fought for whistleblowers. She's friggin', she, as I said, she pushed to get Cynthia McKinney on the ballot, from what I understand, and she's pushing for the right things. So she's one of the very, very few people that I actually wanted to talk to, which is exactly why Jink is trying to squish her.
Yeah.
And it's not going to help her with the Greens for them to see her on TYT and they're going to flip out and go, oh my God, she's, one of them, blah, 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 bullshit. So
I was going to say,
I know it's got to be tough to try to get exposure. You're trying, you're trying to get interviews from whoever.
Yeah, she's trying, man. Like, I don't begrudge her for going on there.
Has anyone interviewed her in the independent media spectrum?
I actually reached out to her a while back before I got involved, like really got involved in Unity for Jay and the Greens. So, I might have to. I don't know when her primary actually is, or if she's, is she on the ballot?
I would think so. Excuse me.
I'm not.
Well,
I'm pretty sure.
The other thing we got to notice about this is, okay, there's been a push to affect the Ohio vote in the past few weeks. I don't know if you guys have noticed it in media, but it's kind of come up on some of the major networks, and it's also, and I think we'll continue to see it. Now, this is a part of that push. Like, the Democratic Party wants to pick up independent votes in Ohio, and they're starting to do
Ohio is huge.
Yeah, and they're starting to do that push. I mean, we knew it was going to happen at some point, but they're starting to do some of that, right? Now, if you notice TYT's messaging platform, now other people have noticed this too. I mean, it's almost identical to not only the MSNBC messaging platform, but to the other Comcast outlets. Okay, so
would it be fair to state that at least where the Rust Belt goes, and especially Ohio and West Virginia, that it really looks as though the Young Turks are undercutting progressive candidates, and even one of their own. I really think that they stunted Paula Jane.
Yeah.
I really believe that. So you have West Virginia, you have Ohio, and you have Pennsylvania. Those are the big three. I guess you could say Indiana, not really, but
dude, Wolfpack was raking in shitloads of money, and so was Justice Democrats. I can't remember how much it was by the time Paula Jean was running, but it was a lot. Okay,
right.
There's no way in hell that Paula Jean should have gotten so little infrastructure and logistical support.
Give me 1 second. The 516. What's your name? Just so we don't have to show your phone number on the screen.
That's actually me.
My name is Donnie, the late night streamer.
All right.
Oh, okay.
What are we talking about here, Elon? What is the topic?
What do you want the topic to be? Right now we're talking about Green Party Ohio's governor run.
We're talking about the midterm elections or the upcoming election process, and that you think that independent voters will be the swing vote. Am I wrong or am I right, Ebon?
Hey, that's what they're saying. I don't think voting's going to matter.
You don't think it's going to matter?
Ain't going to matter. Hey, are you from Boston, too?
No, he's from Long Island.
Oh, Long Island.
Another crazy from Long Island. That's a Long Island area code.
My name's Don A. I'm the mattress king of Buffalo.
Don A.
Don A?
Yeah.
Don A, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think independents are going to swing Ohio? Let's hear the Don A take.
I was in Ohio. I was in Cincinnati. I have an outlet there, mattresses. I'm a mattress king, And I was walking down the street, minding my own business. I turned the corner. I got punched in the chest. I look up, and guess who it was? Ken Griffey Jr. Mother in the chest. And I stepped in and go, "Why you punched me, Ken?" He said, "I thought you were somebody else."
So that's what happened, huh? That motherfucker will knock you the fuck out, I'd imagine.
He told me he thought I was mod shot.
We didn't catch all that, Don A.
Don A. Well,
Mike's fading in now, brother.
She said I thought you were mod shot. You remember Mod Shot, the owner of the Cincinnati Reds?
You only caught about half of that, man.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. But, Mark Schott, the Cincinnati Reds owner, the racist, she had Nazi memorabilia, and she got run out of the major leagues in Cincinnati.
We usually have you gotta pay in cam girls if you're gonna troll the channel. That's our usually the price that we exact.
He said that Ken Griffey, his daddy, had gotten racial slurs thrown at Mark Schott when they won the World Series back in the 70s. Remember the Big Red Machine? I thought we were talking about Ohio. I mean, in Cincinnati, the Big Red Machine,
I don't know much about Cincinnati.
Skyline Chili.
Except for
Riverbend Stadium. That's what I know about. Indian Hills.
Illuminati Central.
The racist owner of the Reds had Nazi memorabilia, and based upon that, I think the independent vote in Ohio matters none. Ohio is like northern Kentucky.
Southern Ohio? Yeah. Cincinnati's not quite so Kentucky, but if you get out of Cincinnati, you're in fucking Kentucky.
You're in Kentucky, and they don't give F's about anything. I don't think there's enough nignogs in the rest of the country, in the state, that it'll affect the vote. And it's it.
Your mic is shot, Donnie. Your mic is shot. You're gonna have to fix that mic.
My mic is beautiful. My mic is beautiful. You're shot. Donnie!
Yeah, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just fucked up. What do you guys think? Is Donnie's mic level all right? Well, maybe both things are true, right? Always remember the third option.
Yeah.
Anybody want some mattresses? I heard Ebon had a flood recently, and I believe mattresses will help soak up that bottom of his basement there. So
it'll soak up his bitterness. He's just bitter about TYT's success. That's why he puts all this TYT hate shit up. He's just bitter.
What's TYT? I don't understand that. What's a TYT?
Oh, you got to start watching, man. They even have a way, once you get into it a bit, there's ways to donate. Ebon, put up the link. Cash. What else? Cash. Or maybe
you got to find a lot of cash under the mattresses that you sell, don't you?
Your mom takes meds, right? Maybe you take some meds. Just go fucking sell them.
Where'd he go?
Sell them and donate.
You got to go to the mattresses. Ebon, you know what I mean? You ever heard that term? Going to the mattresses?
Nope, I never heard that term.
It's when, guys are out to get you, and you want to hide.
All right, Donnie, we're going to find another TYT clip here in a minute and rip it up. Ebon, I picked one.
Okay, go ahead and share.
Why don't you go ahead and you pick one, or...
No, you pick one. I picked the last one. Oh, actually, you picked that last one.
I picked the last one.
All right, I picked that one.
I was going to ask Dave to pick one, but he jetted out. He said he'll be back.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Donnie, you could give us some input, too. I think you'd like TYT.
He doesn't even know who TYT is, man. Oh. He's not hip like us.
TYT.
Oh, Anna-Kasparian on Jordan Peterson. I want to see this one.
I tried watching this. It was boring, but let's see what's up.
Oh, these guys. The Young Turks. The guys. Yeah, I know who they are.
All right. Let's see. The next
googly-eyed girl.
Let's do the next Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. How about that? See wwho they think is.
So I've told you about Kaniela Ng before. I think he's one of the next candidates that are going to win from the Just Democrat. He is a lot like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, another Just Democrat that won in New York recently in a shocking upset over Joe Crowley. Kaniela right now trailing in the polls a little bit. But I've also predicted
let's pause it. I already have something to bitch about on this clip.
Sure.
That's Allison Hartson. Okay. She ran for a seat and lost recently. And she was also simultaneously the head wolf pack coordinator. right? And in addition, like, you've got this fucking media network. So you've got an unholy collusion of elements in that, right?
Yeah.
And now they're continuing to push Hartson. They're trying to associate her with this new, like, Justice Democrat candidate that they brought up because she can't carry herself on her own merits. Apparently, they're hitching the wagons of these two people together.
Wow. Okay.
So
Ugh.
that's what we're seeing going into this.
Whatever your name is, I learned a lot.
A lot about nothing.
How do you liking TYT so far, Donnie?
The fat guy looks like he eats a lot of bacon grease. I don't know.
So yeah, you do know TYT then.
Upset in that.
He looks like bacon grease. I don't know.
You'll ever meet in politics. At the age of 23, he got involved and literally climbed gates in different parts of Hawaii to make sure he got out the vote. He knocked on every door 3 different times in his local area for the state seat that he has right now. Well,
all right, pause it.
He's running for Congress.
I knocked on doors in my neighborhood. I was a paper boy. What's the big deal? Huh?
Now, this dude might have, like, done all that shit. And maybe he did even more. And he's some kind of fucking paladin, right? But simply because Cenk is pushing it makes me doubt that it's true. And that's how TYT damages the left. So, I doubt maybe he didn't do all that shit. Simply because Cenk is spouting his usual bullshit.
What's a Cenk? I thought a Cenk? What?
It's this freak on the screen, dude.
Oh,
all right, go on. Unless you've got something to add, Ebon.
No.
He's the most progressive. He's totally uncorrupted. No corporate PAC money. So what are we going to do? We're going to send in the cavalry.
He should be.
And by the way, you're part of it. But the person who's going to Hawaii right now, as we speak, to help Connie organize her volunteers, is Allison Hartson. So Allison not only was the national director of Wolfpack, and Connie Lang, by the way, supported that resolution in Hawaii as well, but she ran for Senate in California. She gathered up over 2,000 volunteers. Well, I don't know if you know this, for those of you who didn't see it earlier, she then took those volunteers and went to go help Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez after she lost. So Allison lost. Now, normally, what do career politicians do? They're like, okay, let me scheme and calculate as to what I should do next and what position I should go for. Allison was like, no, let me roll up my sleeves and go help a fellow Justice Democrat. Now, if you're running for the Senate, that's theoretically a bigger position. They'd be like, oh, please, I do declare, I'm not going to do that. No, she's like, I'm going to bring my volunteers and we're going to help Ocasio-Cortez. She's not taking volunteers and moving him to Hawaii, and I want you to get involved. This is how we do unity. This is how we get together and win elections. We just showed you how we can win elections with Ocasio-Cortez. We know how to do it. So, but we do need you guys. The answer is, and I suspected that this was the case. I told you this was the case. Now we know that it's the case. It's volunteers. It turns out volunteers can beat big money. You got to make enough calls. You got to knock on enough doors. But if you actually reach the voters in the old-fashioned way, you actually talk to them. And for the establishment politicians, that's too hard. And they don't have any grassroots energy, so they don't hardly have any volunteers at all.
There we go again. Like, how many times have we heard this shit out of TYT? They're the establishment, man. Like, that's we're bucking the trend. This is Rebel HQ. I mean, come on. Anybody who's
do another
is fucking dumb.
Movie. I think this guy should be the #1 candidate as Fred.
What's that, dude? What? I got some of that. Anyways, yeah, they're trying to hitch this Allison. She failed in a run, so now they're trying to hitch her to the various rising stars of Justice Democrats, one or another. He says that she started with 2,000 volunteers. I would like to see how much that number is now, because he doesn't say that. And I'd like to see how much it is a month from now. How many volunteers she has left in like 1 or 2 months.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
So they're like, we'll do it the easy way. We'll just flood the airwaves with our annoying commercials. But we could actually do it, and we have done it. We did it in the Ocasio-Cortez race. So get involved right now, okay? So first off, we need to raise money to make sure that those volunteers can be coordinated. The staff.
More raising money. That's funny.
And free work.
Like,
you can volunteer.
Like, isn't the purpose of the thing with volunteers is you don't have to pay volunteers? So why do they raise money?
Yep, that's it exactly, dude. Now you're getting it.
Hey, I've always gotten it. All right, let's keep going.
Staff needs to coordinate the volunteers. So we literally calculate to the dollar how much you need to make this happen. And so I want to direct you to justicedemocrats.com/Kaniela Ng. And now there's a thermometer up there, and it's a little over $10,000, $10,300 some odd dollars that they calculated they need in staffing, because the election's about a month away. So they need that for a couple of people that they're going to coordinate with and make sure that it's all organized. But they don't need more than that in this case for this story, because the election comes in a month, and that's it.
All right, pause it.
This is not for.
Pause it for a second.
Yeah.
Now you see this thermometer scam they've got going?
I don't even see.
They're not only doing it with like this candidate, where they're trying to raise $10,000, like for each of these specific actions they want to take. They have multiple of these things going. Some are 10,000, some are 30,000, and they're advertising at least one or more of them per episode.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, there is zero accountability for where this money goes.
Yeah.
There's never been.
Hey, Jink could donate a day of his salary, and that'll do it. I'm pretty sure Jink probably makes at least 10,000 a day. You know, not as much as Rachel Maddow, but he's probably making a good bill.
What I know about that is a few years ago, Jenk's net worth
10,000 a day. That's a lot of
like
grief.
Was $4 million, right?
Yeah.
And now it's estimated to be up at about 21.
Oh yeah, that's close to Rachel Maddow's.
20. Well, that's his total.
Oh,
Maddow's
net worth.
making $35 million a year, so that's
okay.
a different level.
Okay. Definitely. That's why he needs more. Needs more money. All right, here you go.
The guys who take corporate money, they're like, oh, I do declare $10,000. Please, have someone send in 10 times as much. But we rely on small donors like you guys. So let's make that happen. Let's do it as we've always done with individual small donors. And so now the other part of it that's super important is actual volunteering. So go to AllisonHartson.com/now. That's Allison's Army, okay? And you can do it anywhere in the country, because phone calls are monumentally important. And you can do those phone calls from anywhere. So AllisonHartson.com/now to make those calls. We'll have all these links down below. If you're not watching the show live, it's okay on YouTube and Facebook. The links will be in the description box, okay? And if you live in Hawaii, please, that's even more important. You got to go knock on doors. That makes the biggest impact. And even coming into the office to make calls makes a giant impact. We've already tested this. We know what we're doing. So if you guys volunteer, we put up another victory here, and we shock the world one more time. So let's go do it together right now. Okay, do whatever you can, donate if you can, volunteer if you can, but let's go put up another progressive victory and shock the world. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe.
Yep, a progressive victory like Cordray. Let's put him on the board, guys.
I don't know if I can handle another video.
I know.
All right, pick your video, pick your poison.
Are we gonna try to do another one of these? It is getting pretty bad. We'll let the chat vote. Like, do you want us to do another one of these TYT videos? Press 1.
Yeah.
If you do, press 2. If you don't,
I agree with.
Give it a minute.
I agree with Shirley. It's like they want, so no longer we get PAC money, but you know the people that they want money from are people who pretty much don't have money, right? Regular people, regular donors, people who sell mattresses, mattress kings. They want your money.
I got plenty of money. No, I won't give it. I'm a Republican. What am I? You crazy there?
Hey. Okay, never mind. I can't think of anything.
Stuff it all in a mattress and send it to TYT, brother.
There you go. Hey, Justice Democrats are like the progressive voice of Republicans. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
They want to win, man. We got to get some victories up on the board, and we need like
illegal aliens now. That's what I see in the news. They represent illegal aliens, huh? Them Democrats, huh?
Hey, who's your favorite Republican guy?
You really want to know?
Yeah.
I go old school when I go. I go old school. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Number one. He fought them Puerto Ricans on San Juan Hill. Beat them up.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if you don't know your history, you just don't know your politics. Okay. Did you pick your video yet?
I'm looking to see if the chat wants us to do another one of these videos. I guess we'll do another one.
I'm talking Teddy, the teddy bear.
Teddy, the teddy bear is different than FDR. You're talking about Teddy Roosevelt.
Related. They were related. They were both Dutch.
All right.
All right, I'll put the link in the chat and I'll let you play it.
Me?
Brought up a lot of, and they're some of the richest families in the United States. They go back to that old money. Them Dutch.
Which chat?
They walk like a dollar.
Hold up a minute. This one's pretty long. I want to pick one that's shorter, man. Keep stalling for time, Don A. I'm looking for a damn clip.
All right. If you like to watch late night live stream entertainment, look for me on YouTube. Don A's late night live stream every Friday at 11 p.m. Whenever I talk to Richard Ross, my best friend and a former maid guy, and he met me in the witness program. About that. He ran a gay nightclub in New York called the Crisco Disco, and he has stories for gay people out. In the back room of the Crisco Disco, he swears to God.
That's cool, man. If you want to promote your show, I mean, it's Ebon's channel, but I don't see any issue with it. I'll check out your show.
Amazing stories. You know, in the Crisco Disco, Eddie Murphy, a young Eddie Murphy, was giving blowjobs.
There's been some rumors about Eddie. There's been some rumors.
More the rumors. I walked in on him. He was like 18 years old giving a blowjob. Okay, what you doing here, Eddie?
So this one's 37 minutes long.
Rides, man. That's all there is to it.
37 minutes long. This is a short one. Oh man.
Well, we don't have to play it all, but this is the classic one.
All right.
You know, you'll see it when it comes up. We don't have to play it all, but.
Oh, Joe Manchin. Woo!
Yeah, this is the classic one.
He's a great Republican, Joe Manchin. Did you know that there, Donnie?
Great interview for you guys today. Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, also former governor of West Virginia, joins us on the Young Turks. Senator, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, James.
Appreciate it.
James. Here we go. This is it. This is the classic clip.
Senator, let me start by asking about your record. So, obviously, you're known as the most conservative Democrat in the Senate. National Journal's got you at 55% conservative voting record.
Look at that brow sweat on Jinx.
It's like, shit. This guy's got some real juice.
Liberal. Yeah. You voted with Trump 58% of the time so far. In the first 100 days, it was up to 67% of the time. And I can go on and on about the issues. So why be a Democrat at all?
Well, I guess you have
to pause it.
Yeah, I'm a
just watch Jenk's body language and the way he delivers questions throughout the interview. He doesn't know how far he should push it. He's kind of scared.
Yeah.
Because face it, Joe Manchin can fuck people up.
Yeah.
And it's also a question of, how far does Cenk want to push the patience of the Democratic Party, which by this time he was already employed by.
Yeah. Do you know
how he cringes, man? He's cringing right now.
And how he doesn't even correct. Does he ever correct him that his name's not Jenks?
Younger was a Bernie supporter. Wasn't he a Green Party guy at one point? Now he's what? He's shilling for the Democratic Party.
West Virginia Democrat. My grandfather, through the Depression, Roosevelt Democrat. My grandfather got thrown out of company housing. He was a coal miner, and he tried to organize the miners at that time. And 1927 was thrown out. Kind of moved into a barn there for about a year. So we've been through some tough times, and we've always believed that you had to work and contribute something back. I'm fiscally responsible and socially compassionate. My grandmother was a one-woman social worker. Everybody went to Mama Kay. If you had no place to stay, Mama Kay took care of you. If you needed food, she fed you. Clothing, she clothed you. My grandfather had a little grocery store because that's how he started his livelihood, taking care of his family, my dad and the 5 brothers and sisters that he had, because he couldn't work in the mines anymore. So we're a product of a West Virginia environment through some challenging times. Now, I never forgot where I came from, but I believe that people should contribute something back, should give something back, should work for something. But, I'm a product of my environment. So from Farmington, West Virginia, Jenks, I watched when the mines were on strike, or if somebody lost a husband in a mine, that my grandfather would take food. We would deliver the food to him. He would take care of him forever. But if people could work, he expected them to get off their butt and do something. So he was willing to give anybody a hand up, and he was willing to take care of those who couldn't take care of themselves, but he wanted people to contribute that could. So I don't know how that ranks or where I fit in, but I believe very strongly that I've had a lot of opportunities, and my family always taught me that I had a responsibility to give back and contribute.
Yeah.
So I'll try to do the best I can.
Right. I read that.
That sounds like a swell guy. I don't know about this guy, but his grandfather, swell guy. And I would like to know what kind of fried chicken and waffles his mammy made.
My mom did some good shit. That's his argument.
Well,
my grandpa did some good shit, but just to be clear, as I'm sure a lot of people will agree, fuck Joe Manchin. Yeah. He's a scumbag. But this is probably the best thing that he's ever done in his career, because he just trolls Jenks over and over through this interview, and he does it deadpan. But when you say Jenks 2 or 3 times in a sentence, you're trolling.
Yeah. Employees when I'm about to give him a monthly evaluation, I say, no raise for you this month.
Another thing, just to note that the Ohio Green Party candidate debate Jenks was 11 minutes. This one, Joe Manchin, 37 minutes.
History of your family, and as I read the story of your mom coming into
and look at the questions that he's asking, right? Very
look at his
soft.
body language right there, dude.
Yeah.
Cringing again. Look at him cringe. He looks like some scared schoolboy.
Yeah.
People got mortgages. They gotta pay them. It's not cheap living in LA.
This country as an immigrant. I think that's why a lot of progressives hope that you would fight harder on the issue of immigration when it comes to fighting Trump's policy.
We hoped that you'd fight harder, sir.
The bill that we had, the Senate bipartisan bill, is basically, I think, still the model, what we should be working on. And that bill basically gave everybody a chance to register, to sign up, and get in the queue, if you would, as far as naturalization. It was no amnesty bill. You had to work and perform, get a job, learn English, participate and perform. I think it was a tremendous opportunity. We couldn't get the House to move on that piece of legislation.
Senator Manchin,
I'm not for building a wall. I'm not for building a wall at all.
Okay. I know you missed the DREAM Act vote. Some think that was, there was political motivation behind that, but you can set the record straight right here. Which way would you vote for the DREAM Act?
The DREAM Act, I believe that any child, any person gets an education.
And Republicans. Republicans are the only presidents who've ever passed amnesty bills. It ain't been Democrats. Barack had 8 years. He didn't do one. Barack, the most phoniest guy ever.
Cenk had a clear opportunity. Cenk had a clear opportunity there to go after him on that issue, didn't he? But instead he was like, but you cleared it up, sir. You cleared it up, and now we can move on. I mean, what a weak interview. This is fucking Rebel HQ.
No, dude, this is an awesome interview. That's why you gotta put great interview, Jenks.
Cenk can't even control his fucking body language around this dude. That's how weak he is.
Yeah.
Should be
Where's
kept
that cute girl?
given every opportunity because they're going to be contributors. I really do, and I didn't have any problem with that. But I said this: if you, as I recall, Jenks, it was for if you had 2 years of participation militarily. Well, I said you should be honorably discharged. Show that you did your duty and you were honorably discharged. Then it said if you had 2 years of college. I said there should be a degree, some sort of a degree. I know people that go to school all the time and never get a degree, American children. But if you have a child that basically is willing to serve in the military, you have a child that basically gets a 4-year or associate degree of some sort, they're going to contribute. They probably contribute.
We can fast forward through some of this
natural-born citizens of our country.
Okay, which part would you like?
See, the other thing about this interview is Joe Manchin is filibustering through most of it. Like he has been so far. He'll talk for fucking 10 minutes and Jenkel just lets him talk.
Yeah.
I don't know what part, man, is how much more of this do you want to watch?
None really, but I do like it when he calls him Jenks and
yeah.
You see the reaction in Jenks' face.
I wish we could find the part where he just starts going Jenks, 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 but I don't know what part that is.
Maybe you know what? I think I'll do a mashup of every time he mentions Jenks and count it, and I'll just do a video of that and upload it. All right, here we go.
That sounds like a great idea there, Ebon.
Yeah.
You should do that.
Thanks, Mattress King.
And I want to show you a graphic here, graphic 1, and then if we can 2 as well. But let's start with 1. This is the list of your top donors. I thought you said that you don't. I understand that you said you don't do quid pro quo. That was clear.
Yeah.
But you know who your top donors are, right?
I do not.
You don't know who your top donors are.
I do not. You're showing me something I've never seen.
Okay, so this is from Open Secrets.
I know you have, Jenks. I know that is hard.
And watch how hard Cenk pushes back on this shit.
All right.
For anyone to believe. I do not. I never have. And I've been around this process for a long time. Never have. I had a person one time come to my office when I was governor, Jenks. And they come in, they said, they were asking for something. It didn't make any sense to me at all. And they said, well, you know, we had a big fundraiser for you. And I said, oh, you did? Well, I would have thought you were investing in good government. I guess we were both wrong. So tell me how much, I'll make sure you get it back.
So, all right, I believe that the audience out there, I got to be honest with you, Senator, is going to be in a little bit of disbelief that.
Well, there's still those of us who are involved in public service for the sake of serving the public.
Okay, so when the donations come in, your staff doesn't tell you about it?
I never ask.
Okay.
I never ask and they never tell me. They'll tell me they fundraiser.
Were you gonna say something?
Just he's not pushing back on it.
Yeah.
And I bought some cookies. That's what I thought he was gonna say.
I know the amounts. I know how much we're raising. I know what it takes to run a campaign. But individually, they don't come and say, oh, this, and this.
Right.
Because your limits in West Virginia, the limits were always $1,000. That was the maximum anybody can give you. So no corporations or businesses.
Mm-hmm. So the list stands out for a number of reasons. One is that it is filled to the rim with energy companies. And I know you worked at an energy company in 2009 and 2010 as well, and you were an executive there. And you have voted with the energy companies very consistently, hence a natural question as to whether
in all in energy policy. I know what it takes to run the country. You need base
Just
load.
let him cut you off,
The only base load you have that you can count on 24/7, Jenks, is coal and nuclear. It's uninterruptible power. Natural gas, especially in West Virginia, we've got so much with the Marcellus and Utica Shale now, that produces a tremendous amount of new energy, but it is interruptible, but it's even overtaken how much energy it's producing versus what coal and nuclear is. But when you take coal, nuclear, and gas today, you're well over 70, 80% of the energy this country consumes. So I'm a realist. I understand the energy market. And I think there's a balance there to be had, and it creates a lot of good jobs in West Virginia. It's a way of life in West Virginia. But it's what we've always done, which is the heavy lifting for the country.
But does it, so Senator Manchin, I looked up the median income in West Virginia. Now, you've served West Virginia for a long time as governor and then senator. And the median income is, for West Virginia, is 48th in the country. So the third from the bottom. So if helping the energy companies and the coal companies winds up helping the citizens, how come it hasn't in West Virginia?
Well, we have the ups and downs, but the biggest problem that we've had in West Virginia is absentee ownership. We have a lot of these companies that take the profits out of our state and have always done, especially in our southern counties. You know, 10 to 12 of our southern counties, the large landowners. My goodness, some of the gilded homes.
All right, here, pause it for a second. Pause it for a second. See, to me, that looks, and I can't say this for sure. I'm not sure about it. But to me, it looks like Cenk set him up for this response, because this is a very good response that Joe Manchin gives in this next section about coal and energy companies taking wealth out of West Virginia. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. And it seems to me that Cenk gave him a fucking softball and let him hit it out of the park. Yeah. On some of these other questions, he lets Manchin interrupt him and he just puts his head down. He makes a feeble attempt at raising some questions, but he just shuts up and puts his head down when the push comes to shove. Yeah.
Were built Berwyn land and Pocahontas land, and some of those who still are receiving the benefits from the hard work of West Virginians. And these people aren't putting money back into the state. That has been possible. If you want to know.
I'm going to show you one more graphic here. It's actually graphic 3, and it shows, again, open secrets, the contributions that are coming in. Now, I know you say you don't check this, but there is one larger picture, macro question I wanted to ask you about this. Your small individual contributions make up only 1% of the money coming in from 2013 to 2018 into your campaigns. So 99% big money, 1% small money. So I wonder if you're for getting big money out of politics. It's a literal question. Or do you think the current system is fine?
Oh, the current system is not fine. The current system has destroyed the politics or the government as we know how we go through this process of electing people. The dark money coming in is horrible. It's not the money the candidates run. Forget about that, Jenks. That money is not going to make a difference.
Pause it for a second. Every one of his questions is framed so soft. I wonder. The audience might think this. Are you sure you didn't check and that you don't know? He never says, you didn't check. This looks like you're corrupt.
What is your name?
Does that.
Gentleman talking. What's your name? What's your name? I'm dominated. Who? God Gnome? God Gnome. Are you telling me that maybe Jenks knew the questions prepared for him, and the other guy knew the answer? The questions that were going to be asked?
It's possible, but they're both good enough so that they didn't even have to do that necessarily. They didn't have to pre-plan it. He could throw up a softball question that he knew was a softball, and Joe Manchin's an experienced enough politician to hit it out of the park.
Greek guy looks like he needs a cheat sheet. He doesn't look very smart.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. They probably did set it up.
And who wins and who loses. It's the dark money coming in that we have no control whatsoever. Citizens United is absolutely destroying our country, and it should be outlawed. It should be done away with. It should have never come into being.
So do you think there should be public financing instead of private financing of elections?
I tried public finance when I was governor of West Virginia and supported it. Absolutely.
Would you be in favor of an amendment to get money out of politics?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You talk about money being the root of all evils. In politics, it's destroying politics as we know it.
I gotta make a point. I have a point. Why doesn't all the states have term limits? Right? Your governor has a term limit. Yeah. Your state Congress, your state representative, the state has term limits. The houses have term limits. Mayors have term limits. So why can't you make a constitutional convention and make term limits? It doesn't have to come from the senators. It doesn't have to come from the congressmen. It doesn't have to come from the president. It can come from the state. but they don't do it.
I don't know what type of mattress you're sleeping on, but I want one.
How do you make an amendment to the Constitution for term limits, right? The state can make a convention, and if they pass it by 3/4, it goes into Congress, and they either got to approve it or not.
But do you think Congress will approve that?
Well, if 3/4 of the state approve it, they're undeniable in having to pass it, right?
Well, they can pass it on to Congress, but do you think people in Congress are going to pass it?
Yeah, but they don't want to agree with you, so they're going to. The states are going to push forth an amendment, and the congressman will say, no, you still get reelected.
Fuck a constitutional convention in this environment. There's too many big fish in the water for it to not turn into some kind of crazy.
You have all the state houses that have term limits. You got the majority of the mayors in major cities with term limits, and they can't pass a term limit bill. And it's been how many years? Term limits have been the norm in state, local government.
All right, I just want to play the end just so we can see the look on Jank's
let's finish
face.
This shit up.
Yeah.
All right, Senator Joe Manchin, thank you for joining us on the Young Turks. We appreciate you taking the time out and addressing the audience on these really important questions. Thank you so much.
It's great being with you, and look forward to being back with you too on any issues. I'm happy to explain. Might not always agree. I owe everybody an explanation where I'm coming from and the reason I vote. And if I make a mistake, I'll be the first to admit I made a mistake and I can fix it.
All right, thank you, Senator Manchin. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jenks. Good to be with you.
Thank you, James. Oh, man.
That's the classic one.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our attempt. We've done 3 or 4 of these damn things.
3.
If you guys like them, type 1. If you don't ever want to do them again, type 2.
Oh, I don't ever want to do one again. Oh my god.
One here. I'll type a 1 right here in the chat. 1. Keep it up.
You like them? Well, I like kicking TYT too, man, but it gets tiring because it's just it's like playing soccer all day. You know, eventually, you get tired of kicking. And even more than that, it's like playing soccer against a bunch of elementary kids. You always have control of the ball, so you're always running and kicking. So it gets tiring. There's so much you can tear TYT apart for. We could do this for all night and not run out of material. But we're not going to.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I mean, Howard Bastard.
Fund me for a mud wrestling match between that fat bacon eating guy and Alex Jones.
I don't know who would win. I think Alex Jones would win, honestly.
I was hoping they'd get into a fist fight, to be frank.
You know, it shouldn't be mud wrestling. It should be oil, and they should be totally naked.
I think Jank was.
I like where you're going with that. Yes, kind of like a Nuru massage thing, right? Nuru oil.
The winner has to give the other one a massage.
No, the Nuru stuff. You know, they get that. It's like that gelatin stuff. They can get all greased up. They get in some trash bags, and they go at it. You know, who has the erection first, Jake or Alex Jones?
I stop at trash bags, man. That's my point.
Jake one in the middle of it and wins by default.
Just let him settle it once and for all. That's what I say.
Well, I think Jenks has an erection and wins by default. He wins by TKO, or I should say, 2-cock-o, something like that. He gets a hot on it and goes out of the ring. That's what I think.
Cock is not spelled with a K, but unless it's the Koch brothers.
I don't know. I'm from Northern New York. What do you expect?
How do you like the Koch brothers?
The Koch brothers? The Koch brothers?
Yeah, the Koch brothers. You like them?
I don't know. They've done good things. They've done bad things, like everybody, you know?
Did you ever sell them any mattresses?
Maybe. I might have provided disposal lots, let's say, for certain people in northern New York.
So what? Have you ever watched Steven Crowder before?
Yeah. I've shown that video where he debates that socialist kid, and that socialist kid pretty much owned him. You didn't see that one?
I saw part of that.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Like, his argumentation is often so circular and poor that it makes it hard to watch him for any length of time.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to watch, you know, if Steven Crowder would stick to comedy, he'd be 100% more watchable. He does have some good bits.
Was he a comedian?
The Young Turks, they stick to comedy. I've been laughing my ass off this whole evening. Hilarious.
Unintentional comedy. Let's see. I don't know. You know, I would rather watch Alex Jones than TYT, even though I don't like Alex Jones.
Ryan's here to make us watch TYT.
Oh man, I see your Hillary 2020 sign behind you, Ryan.
Yeah, man, just say. Hey everyone.
Hey.
No, I want to see that Steven Crowder video.
Oh, you didn't see that one? Oh
nah.
Man, that's a good one. I like that one.
Hey, who's this? Good day there, mate. How you doing there, mate? Ha ha.
You better watch out, man. That's the fucking Croc.
Is a Croc?
You know, the thing that I've come to realize with people like Steven Crowder, whatever his name is, and Ben Shapiro, is like they'll ask you a question, and it's Jesse Lee Peterson as well. As soon as you start to make sense, they cut you off, and then they'll go into a different topic. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah. All right. Here,
you have to wonder whether Jesse Lee is doing that I think he's mostly doing that intentionally. But
oh yeah.
You also have to wonder if sometimes he does it unintentionally. You know what I'm saying? Like he can't keep track of the conversation.
He doesn't seem like the brightest spark.
All right, so I'm gonna share it. You'll like this one, I think, Ryan. Here we go.
Because we only have one officer who showed up, because that's all you need for a crowd like this. All right, what is your name,
This is
sir?
a high school kid, if I remember correctly.
Nice to meet you, Steven. So I believe, let me explain my position. I believe that socialism is fundamentally evil. And I have this here. We usually don't reference this, but it's sources in case someone wants to look at them afterward, but I don't think, I won't use it. It's not fair for me to use them. So I believe socialism is evil. You disagree. I would love to hear you change my mind.
Okay, well, what's your position on the minimum wage?
Well, hold on a second. Is this your changing my mind? I want to make sure.
Yes, I want to get started.
Okay, my position on the minimum wage. Yeah, you know what? I'm not a fan.
So you think there shouldn't be any minimum wage at all?
Yeah,
should
not
be
a fan.
zero.
Not a fan.
Okay, are you against illegal immigration and legal immigration from poor third world countries at the scale that we've been having it so far?
Am I against illegal immigration? The answer is, what was that? Volume. Well, we're going to do everything we can. Like we said, this is last minute because we're not necessarily friendly here. I'm against, no, I mean, they don't consider us friendly. So like I said, we appreciate you supporting us. Of course I'm against illegal.
He's always whining about that shit.
Socialism, I believe the idea of socialism, let's do this before we go on, okay? Right. Because this is something, and I think this is important, this is something that we often see from both the right and the left.
Why are we watching this? It's like an 18-year-old kid. He's got
Shush.
If it's okay, let's
define.
define.
He doesn't have a mortgage. He never had to pay for insurance.
Another word.
Insurance. What believes in socialism? His parents pay for everything. He lives in a socialistic society. My kids are rats like him.
Can you shut up so we can listen to it?
It's important to but don't boo.
Put him in the waiting room so we can listen.
I might be. No, I mean they don't consider us friendly. So like I said, we appreciate you supporting us. course I'm against illegal immigration, but again, socialism, I believe the idea of socialism, let's do this before we go on, okay? Because this is something, and I think this is important, this is something that we often see from both the right and the left. See, we started with the premise where I made a statement, socialism is evil.
Right.
And you've moved on to different questions, different topics. So I'd like to first, before we move on, if it's okay, let's define socialism.
Okay.
How do you define socialism? So I know that we're agreeing on that premise.
Socialism is a system in which the state redistributes wealth from what it would be under a pure capitalist system.
Okay, I think we agree on that. Okay, and then I think it's important to, but don't move. This is just an actual discussion. I might be wrong here. And what do you think I mean by evil, or what would we both agree the definition of evil is?
Harmful to society.
Here, pause it for a moment.
I believe morally reprehensible.
This is what Steven Crowder does. He tries to parse the argument down to the point where the original issue just vanishes. He's always doing this. Go on.
Sensible. It's immoral. Okay. So as we both agreed, socialism is basically a governmental control of the distribution or means of distribution or production. And when I say evil, I mean I believe that is immoral. So can we both agree with that?
I don't agree that it's evil.
No, but we agree that that's what I'm saying. That's my position.
Yes.
Okay, so what part of my position do you disagree with? Again, the goal here is to change my mind, not score points.
Well, I'm trying to convince you that your own objectives, if you're a conservative, cannot be achieved under capitalism.
Okay.
And so I'll give you an example of that.
Yeah.
You have a lot of Republicans like Paul Ryan who are obstructing Donald Trump. Well, hold on. You cannot deny that he is a big capitalist, and he has lots of capitalist donors that would like nothing more than to increase their profits. I think you can agree with that. And people like that have been opposing immigration reform for decades because they believe that mass immigration will lower the wages of the working class and increase their profits.
Now, I would say a lot of what you just said is correct.
Okay.
In that many conservatives, Republicans believe that mass immigration from countries like, say, Mexico, from quote-unquote third world countries, could lower the wages. Yeah, I do believe that a lot of Republicans believe that. Okay, so I would agree with you on that.
So if you impose a minimum wage, you're not going to have this mass immigration coming in because the companies that are taking these illegal immigrants and taking these low-wage immigrants, if they had to pay them $15 an hour, we wouldn't have mass immigration like we're having right now.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that I agree with that premise. So let me kind of go, because first off, before I would like to take that, hold it. What example we point to before we go on? Because I know a lot of times we disagree, of a successful socialist country.
Well, there are different kinds of socialism. I think you're thinking of the Soviet Union and Venezuela when you say these are unsuccessful countries. But you also have Sweden, you have Norway, you have Finland, you have Denmark, you have Germany.
Sure.
These are countries that have robust economies and high levels of socialization.
Right. What's their minimum wage?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
What if I told you that they have no minimum wage?
There are plenty of countries that have high minimum wage. Australia has a high minimum wage.
I know, but we didn't talk about them. We talked about a successful socialist economies. Now, first off, I think it's interesting. This is important because we need to define the premise. First off, we're away from the premise, which is the moral argument. I believe socialism is immoral. The redistribution of something that you have not earned, I believe, is fundamentally immoral. I believe that's theft.
Are you an anarchist?
Hold on a second. Then we'll go in. So now we moved on from that to the pragmatic. And no, I'm not an anarchist. And then you brought up successful examples in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, I believe.
Yeah.
First off, these aren't socialist countries. Now, the reason we would point to countries like, say, Venezuela or Cuba, for the same reason Bernie Sanders did for decades, is because they're true examples of socialism. The Danish Prime Minister said, Bernie, stop referring to us as a socialist economy. We're a free market economy. They don't have a minimum wage, as we know it. They only allow collective bargaining between unions.
Here, pause it for a second. Like, you noticed back when he was talking about, a lot of Republicans would have this position on immigration. When the kid directly was asked him what he thought, Steven Crowder said, I agree with you, a lot of Republicans would have that position. Now, you saw that same stupid rhetorical trick with Joe Manchin. Just that when you can't win on a point, you deflect. A lot of people agree with you. I don't necessarily agree with you, or I might, but we're going to, it's just dumb rhetorical tricks, and that's all Crowder does.
It's
kind of frustrating to watch.
Can I say something?
No, you can't, mate.
Okay. so I sort of reject the fact that he's leaving Australia out of this conversation. Australia is one of the biggest economic per capita countries in the world, And the fact that he's deflecting Australia out of the conversation is because we do have a high minimum wage. So he wants to leave Australia out of the conversation just to make this point that he's going to make now, that these countries don't have minimum wage, but they have enterprise bargaining agreements, which Australia also has. So he's deflecting around Australia as you know.
I thought he was just getting Australia out of the picture because it's just a small, puny country, but that could be
yeah, that too.
But
this is the type of bullshit that Steven Crowder does.
Yeah, I mean, to the point of Garden, Donald Trump does it when he wants to make fun of someone and not be not call it libel. And he says, "People are saying, I'm not saying it, but people are saying that you're a dumbass." All right.
And those their employers. So these are countries, by the way, if we want to get into their immigration laws, the only way to make it work, if you refer to those countries, I mean, I guess I would have to ask. It sounds almost as if you're making an argument. Are you
okay? And just one more point. Like, notice how the conversation is off of socialism. Now we're on to specific issues like minimum wage and immigration and all this, like, which are issues that exist outside and within. So they really don't have anything to do with the supposed topic at hand.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that really bugs me about these things is that he has total control of the microphone. So as soon as the kid starts making a valid point and Steven sees that he's making that valid point, he whips the microphone away and then goes down another rabbit hole, which fucking annoys the shit out of me.
I gotta remember to do that to you.
Yeah, man.
Economic nationalist.
You are an economic nationalist.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. So you part ways with a lot of probably your more left-leaning brethren.
I never said I was a liberal.
Okay, so you're a conservative socialist. They're hard to come by. So no minimum wage there. But again, this doesn't change the idea. Let's get to the fundamental premise.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the pragmatic, and I'd be happy to. But I believe that socialism, the ism that we both agreed upon, the collective means, seizing of distribution, production, is immoral.
I mean, the argument is absurd because if you say that it's immoral, then you also have to say that government funding of police is immoral, government funding of the military is immoral. Anything the government does is immoral, and that's you have to have some state that's going to socialize certain things. And so the question is not do we have socialization, it's how much.
Sure. I would disagree with that. Now, would you know where I disagree with that? Guess what I'm going to say.
I assume you're going to try to argue that government funding of the military and police is not socialism.
Why would I say that?
Well, because if you don't argue that, then you're going to have to give socialism.
No, absolutely. I think you're right. If I have to concede that police force, as he's saying, police force, military, roads is socialism, the same as healthcare, education, and I'm assuming that's why you're referring to Denmark and Sweden. They're not socialist economies, but they have more of a social safety net. That's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, they're social democracies.
They're market economies with higher emphasis on a social safety net. That's how they describe it.
That's what a social democracy is.
So, okay, we agree on the term. Let's go with social democracy. I just want to make sure we don't get confused like democratic socialism. All that
sure,
changes.
That's it. You just want to make sure, Stephen.
Let's talk about this, conceding that ground. I don't believe that the military and the police force would be the same as socialized healthcare school.
Why not?
Sorry, because we only have one microphone. We had to do a late setup. I appreciate you working with me.
Well, I mean...
Why not? Why not was your question.
Our definition was that...
So why not?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to make sure you don't... why not? Because there's a difference between a public good and a commodity. Can you explain to me the difference between public goods and a commodity?
Well, begging the question constantly.
Good that is, I believe, non-excludable and non-rivalrous. So...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that would include things like the police, the military. You'd be hard-pressed to even find hardcore libertarians who say that we don't need those. Okay. So there's a big difference. There's a fundamental difference between that and something like healthcare or school.
It's still
or it goes to free internet, as Sven Computer talked about in Germany now. High-speed internet is a right. The second you declare any commodity to be a right or to be a fundamental role of government, that means the government can now remove that right depending on who's in power, and that's the problem. That's why I think it's fundamentally immoral for someone to take something they haven't earned, regardless of who's in power. I think it's immoral for Donald Trump's administration to take it from you, just as you probably think it's immoral for Barack Obama's administration to take it from me.
False equivalence.
Public good versus commodity. And I think that's an important distinction for everyone here to make, because it's a common argument we hear from the left. If you support any role of government at all, that means that this is socialism. But it's not according to the definition that we agreed upon. Something else, I think it also matters, the constitutional parameters of government, right? What the Constitution defines what our government is and what fundamental human rights are.
Well, I want to get back to your earlier point where you said that because the military is a public good, therefore it's not socialism. In your definition, you never made any distinction between different types of goods. You just said a socialist economy is one that takes wealth from some people and gives it to others, and that's what financing a public good is.
Well, no, it's not. You talked about redistributing, the redistribution, the common means of production or distribution. So if we want to frame that in, I certainly wouldn't say that that's the police. Oh, someone's yelling. Hopefully we're good. So I would not agree with you that the military or police would be socialist. But to move on here, again, let's go to the Danes, Denmark, Norway, successful examples of socialism. Yeah. Because that would be different from your definition of socialism. So now I moved on from the idea that taking something you haven't earned to give to someone else is morally reprehensible, regardless of the reason, because socialism can only be enacted through the threat of violence. That's really what taxes are. At the end of the day, we all agree on that.
Violence is part of life.
Okay, well, I don't believe there should be a part of life for someone with guns to come in if I don't pay for Timmy's health care. I just disagree with that.
If you don't pay taxes, you're going to have other forms of violence that arise spontaneously. This sort of autistic libertarian idea of, oh, you can have a non-aggression...
Stop it. He's been watching Matt Damon videos. Continue.
This idea of a non-aggression principle is just fantasy. Okay, you have to have.
Describe to me. You just said autistic, and this was very civil until you brought that up. Define autistic here.
Well, it tends to be characterized by an overemphasis on logic and philosophy as opposed to reality. You know, it's very easy to argue from syllogisms and axioms and all that.
So hold on a second. I want to make sure before you move, because what you do is you speak in these paragraphs. We need to determine what these definitions are. I think we both agree that's fair. Okay. So you just said that autism, if I'm not mistaken, and I would love for you to bring this up, is rooted more in philosophy and theology than...
Here, pause it for a second.
All right, before you go, there's someone in 346. What's your name? Just don't want your number to be shown. 346, you there?
Well, anyways, what a cheesy and way to worm your way out of the debate. What he's doing now, with oh, autistic, huh? Autistic. You said autistic. He was losing badly, getting humiliated by that kid, and this is his way out.
Yeah. Well, he switched it to comedy, which he's good at.
Logic, syllogisms, that sort of thing.
That's what you believe is the definition of autism?
Well, because it leads you down these intellectual...
No, do you believe that's the definition of autism?
No,
you don't.
I'm using it in an informal way.
Okay, so you're using it in an insulting way.
You can say that.
Okay.
A little bit of banter.
A little bit of, yeah. Well, we don't call that friendly banter generally. Okay. We call that being a dick.
Fuck you.
So I want to go back to hopefully keeping it civil. You know, I wouldn't call you retarded. You know, I wouldn't say that you had a fight with the Clippers and the Clippers won. I wouldn't do this. Let's keep this very civil. So let's go back to Sweden, Denmark.
Does that shit all the time and 100 times worse than that.
Successful examples of socialism. It was interesting to me that you said, I know you'd want to point to the USSR or Venezuela or these places, but really we should look to these Scandinavian countries.
Sure.
Why?
Because they provide a good quality of life for their citizens. You don't have this gigantic gap between the working class and the upper class. There is a commitment of the state to the well-being of their citizens, and I think that's a wonderful thing.
Okay. So first off, I agree with you that first off, the overall well-being of citizens is a tremendous thing. I think we would all want, I think everyone here wants a better society, wants a better America. I don't think that you want a worse America. No. I hope that you don't believe I want a worse America, despite the fact that you implied I might be autistic. So maybe I don't know what's best for America. You know, autistic and such. Keep your hate speech off this game. But your reasoning there, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said there isn't the same kind of gap, the inequality gap. That was your, I want to get, because you speak in, like I said, in longer paragraphs. Sure. Seems the fundamental premise there was Denmark, Norway, Sweden, they're examples because they're successful. They have a higher quality of living, and the main purpose, the main justification used was there's less of an inequality gap. Am I correct? I don't want to misrepresent you.
Yes.
Okay. So your problem is with inequality.
It's one of several problems. I think another problem when
But that was your first issue. Let's go point by point. Okay.
Fair enough.
Inequality. What's immoral about inequality?
Because there's this idea that you're going to have this society, and everybody has social obligations. But if you have a situation where people are being crushed, where people's wages are going down, you lose the social cohesiveness of that society. You lose the commitment that everybody has to advancing that society.
Hold on a second. I want to, because now you're getting into potential results, the hypothetical, almost autistic
It's
one
real.
could say.
It's real.
But I ask again, what is immoral about inequality?
What's immoral is that it ruins the society. That's what's immoral about it.
How does inequality ruin society? Because it sounds to me, if I'm not mistaken, what you just went down and described was a problem with poverty.
Yeah.
So your problem is with poverty then?
But poverty is a consequence of inequality.
That's not necessarily true. But, and as a matter of fact, I would argue that there are two very different things. Because I would say, and I think we'd probably have to agree, that the free enterprise, westernized capitalist system has pulled more people out of poverty than any system in existence. And if you look at countries, you said don't point to countries like Venezuela or true socialist economies, there's tremendous equality, but everyone is equally poor. So the problem you have is with poverty, it sounds like, and I think we would both have a problem with that we want to solve ways to eliminate.
I'd like to pause it for just a second. There's a point that he brought up that I always hear, and it's just bullshit. Like, they say that it is capitalism alone that has led to these advances, that has pulled all these people out of poverty. I'm sorry, it's technology that's done it. Now, you can say that, like, maybe that technology wouldn't have developed under a different system. But it's technology that did it. Like,
technology come from? Comes from the air?
No, technology can emerge out of many systems. Like, and capitalism has played a role in the advancement of technology. I'm not denying that. What I'm saying is capitalism.
Hey, Donnie, just wait till he's done, then you can go off. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is that capitalism, you know, I'm not saying that it hasn't contributed to the advancement of technology. What I'm saying is many hardcore capitalists claim that these advances are the direct result of capitalism, and that's not true. They're the direct result of technological advancement, which could emerge out of any number of economic systems. Maybe one would be a little bit slower, maybe one would be a little bit faster. But what we're talking about here is the advancement of technology, not an economic
logical advances that emerged out of Cuba.
I only caught part of that, dude. Something about Cuba.
What logical advancements have come out of Cuba? I mean, they can make a stop forever. That's an
are you guys hearing the same thing out of here? I can't catch what he's saying. Are you guys?
I don't know what he's saying.
Yeah, I can't understand it.
Let him try.
I guess
out of Cuba, huh?
I said something about Cuba. What I would say about the socialist system in Cuba is that it's been intentionally isolated for decades. You know, there's really no way to tell how it would have emerged if it would have been allowed to be a free partner within the world. You know,
name technological advances that come out of socialistic governments.
Well, there's lots of, dude. What the fuck do you think the space race was about?
What do you think atom bomb was? Atom bomb.
I mean, it's across the board, really. Like, there's tons of technologies that have emerged out of Russia and China.
All right. Technologies today. What technological advancement using a technology today have come out of a socialist government?
You just need to go
me some fucking examples.
Just
look at your phone. Look down at your phone and tell me how many of those patents came out of a socialist government.
You mean like China?
Never heard like China? Yeah, you know.
China,
Russia, Taiwan.
You might
anything that come out of Australia, like Wi-Fi.
You know, CERN was funded by 21 member states. That's socialist funding.
Technological advancement from where it's manufactured. So where did that technological patent come from? Did it come from a college or university in the United States, or did it come from a college or university in China?
There's plenty of stuff that comes out of Russia, China,
Australia.
Like, you know, there has been in the past, is what I'm saying. I realize that Russia is no longer communist. What I'm saying is that there have been advancements out of that system as well.
Australia is not pie in the sky ideas, and you're thinking like an 18-year-old, and that's what you're doing.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Going to personal insults.
Go sell a
instead of-
fucking mattress.
Yeah.
All right,
Going to
keep playing the
personal
clip.
We all know that Garden Gnome sleeps on a twin bed.
Creative.
I know,
What have you created? I have
Mute this
people,
fucker for a
and
second.
they-
We can't understand him anyways. We'll let him talk after we get done with more.
But the problem is that
You sound like a bunch of bullies. You sound like a bunch of bullies, anti-fub bullies. That's what you sound like. And I don't know this guy here from Australia.
I'm a fat guy from
Australians
Australia.
are famous for bullying the fuck out of people, man. What are you talking about? They're famous for
Oh, you're hurting my feelings, man. Don't be like that.
Australians are known bullies, and I'm not even fucking joking.
Oh,
The North, and you can't stand it.
Can't even hear you, Donnie. What are you saying, mate? Hey, what are you saying?
Hey, Donnie.
You ever see Romper Stomper, Donnie?
Donnie,
You ever see that fucking film?
what's going on, Donnie?
Internet, it's not my fault.
Cuba. All right. Anyways, like
Yeah.
Donnie, like you're adding to the conversation, dude. But we can't hear you half the time. So fix your mic.
Yeah.
Well, mic's fine. How do I going to fix it? What's wrong with my mic?
Oh, there you go.
What's wrong with my mic?
Maybe you should go to a capitalist country and buy a microphone.
That's right. Go to
One that works.
communist country.
Stop buying stuff from China.
Buy an American-made microphone.
Yeah.
Not one of those Chinese-made
Put your
microphones.
money where your mouth is, Donnie.
Yeah. Oh, Donnie.
Donnie, I owned you. You got couldn't come up with this. I don't know.
What?
I don't know.
What?
I'm the winner here. And I am Mattress King of New York. And buy Ebon with your collective of fat socialistic idiots.
Oh, that's gold.
All right, Donnie. Like that time we let you in for free twice. But next
Fat
time
socialist.
it's cam girls. Our price
Yeah.
for letting trolls in this room is cam girls. I
Exactly.
don't know how many times I gotta fucking say it.
Free lap dances, strippers. That's good stuff. And that
We'll
if
let
that
you in
happens,
if you got cam girls.
if that happens, I'm gonna cover it up. But you could go on DLive and watch the whole show for free.
But this is the thing with Steven Crowder, right? Is he'll throw Cuba in your face and he'll throw Venezuela in your face, but when there are external governments with their thumb on the scale, socialism's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like if you got America banning trading with Cuba, then how are they going to make a decent go of it? And then you got Venezuela, America's fucking around with their politics. I mean, how do you expect a socialist country to succeed when there's meddling in their system? So, yeah,
Exactly the point I was making, man.
yeah.
Hey,
so it doesn't make
he who holds the mic can do whatever he wants. It's like, hey, I'll bring in Cuba, but you can't bring in Australia. I've got the mic. That's all I gotta say.
I don't know. At some
shut up,
point
you big fat socialist.
Yeah, at some point he just started throwing a fit. I'm not sure what it was all about, but
Yeah, it's classic. I love the amount of thumbs down on it. All right, here we go.
How
are we
many
getting
thumbs?
thumbs down, man? I can't believe this.
You're going to have an upper class that controls the political system and secures its own interests instead of the interests of people.
Okay.
So yes, inequality matters as well.
Okay, so describe to me, and then I'd like to go back to that, examples of this, the upper ruling class determining political system.
You want examples of that?
I would like some
Okay,
examples
sure,
of that.
Sure.
Because I believe, so for example, let's say, you mentioned that inequality hurts people. I would argue no, and I think that's because, again, this is more of a leftist view. I know you said you're not really liberal, but I can tell you by your worldview on economics that you do lean more left because you're seeing it as a zero-sum game. Wealthy people can't get wealthy off of the backs of poor people if they make them more poor. That's kind of, if we're going to talk about motives and attributing motives, that you've done a couple of times here. If I believe if I want everyone to be wealthy,
Okay.
I would necessarily, if I need a system of government that would want people to be wealthy, would require people to be wealthy. For someone who would want to control a system of government, like in socialist economies, who would want to consistently talk or gain the votes of the poor, they can only be elected if people are poor. Bernie Sanders is not going to be elected by a rich country.
We're not trying to make everybody rich. That's not possible. We're trying to create a fair distribution of wealth. But I want to get back to your earlier question about how are the wealthy controlling the political.
Well, yeah, so let's an example of that. I don't believe that inequality necessarily hurts someone. I don't believe it's a zero-sum game. You know, for example, Tim Cook. And I don't like Tim Cook, by the way. I don't know, Apple people with Android, they're going to start yelling. Tim Cook creating a better iPhone, even though the iPhone 10 kind of sucks. Yeah. Thank you. That's where we get the passion. That doesn't hurt me. Him making billions of dollars from that doesn't hurt me. Poverty, bread lines, $160 for a dozen eggs. That hurts me. I have a problem with poverty. I don't care if someone else has more than me, so long as I have a system where I'm able to do okay.
You understand that it's the upper class and the capitalists that want mass immigration and want illegal immigration because it's in their economic self-interest. If you're a Republican and you're with the capitalists, you're going against your own interests. The capitalists are not conservative. They're not.
Well, hold on a second. We're talking about capitalist, conservative, Republican here. So you're saying that capitalism, we're talking about the ism now, socialism versus capitalism. Yeah. I don't care what Paul Ryan does in his own time. I don't care what his front page newsprint is doing P90X and what he thinks about immigration. I couldn't care less. So what I don't believe in it. I don't believe. It seems that you would agree in securing the borders. It seems that you would agree in stricter immigration laws.
I would, and it's not. You're not going to get it if you shill for the capitalists.
Well,
they're against you.
Define shill.
Well, if you're
I know you like to sound really intelligent by speaking in paragraphs. One thing, you've misused words several times. And if someone were to call you on it and be as rude as you are, you might look what you might refer to as
shut the fuck up. See, like, that makes me want to slap him.
Define, because it's a very specific definition. You came in and just...
What a condescending twat.
This is a kid. This kid is not a college kid, by the way. He is a high school kid, if I remember correctly. And he states that, like, I don't know when this clip begins, but, like, he states that at some point during this interview. Right, you got this fucker, like that dude's like 6'3", kind of a big guy. He's been up in this kid's face the whole time, like now he's doing this. Like that makes me want to slap him.
I mean, he's not actually dodging the he's actually dodging the argument of being called a shill just by trying to embarrassing the kid into asking him what a shill is. You know what I mean?
There's dumbass strategy the whole time.
Yeah, there's no real like cohesiveness to his interview here. And you're right, he's in the kid's face. But my biggest problem is and Steve Crowder does it all the fucking time, is he doesn't let people finish what they're saying. Yeah. So they get halfway. The thing about they get smartass. They get halfway through their what they're trying to say, and then he cuts them off and then argues that point instead of letting them bring up the whole argument to shoot Steve down. He's a shit interviewer. He really is.
Yeah, and if this is like a debate, it's the purpose of it is to listen to the other person's point, and while you're listening, is come up with a good counterpoint, right? Mm-hmm. And this one,
I know, right? Just the way.
And so...
that's right.
Shut up. All right.
It fucking shits you, doesn't it?
What?
This guy's the worst asshole, though, man. He's just the fucking worst.
Ready to give the microphone to someone else if you don't stop doing this, because this isn't the goal of this. What's a shill?
Well, I think you're getting upset because you're losing the debate. But...
That's fair, that's fair. What's a shill? No. The person losing the debate is the one who refers to the other person as autistic and a shill. That's generally a good sign.
What a fucking fly ass.
I don't have the exact definition, but essentially someone who's, I guess, pushing or advancing somebody else's interests, I suppose.
For profit.
Fair enough. But a lot of these conservatives who...
Well, you're not talking to these conservatives, you're talking to me. This isn't a performance hall here. That's why we're doing this after. This is a conversation. You're talking to me. I just said that I'm against illegal immigration. It's okay. You can look me in the eyes. I'm not mad at you. I just think it's rude. It's okay. Don't worry. I mean, we're okay. I'm used to people being rude to me. I'm sure you're probably aware of this to one degree or another. Let's move back to, again, Norway, Sweden. We didn't really kind of go to that. You've talked about them as successful examples. Now, we refer to them, and I would agree. I would agree that if we're going to take a model and say they've created a social safety net that functions better than many other countries, for example, socialized healthcare and education.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Good. Well, so you would support school vouchers?
I think, you know, in general, vouchers I think have a problem because they do lead to the incentivization of private schools. But
Okay.
any way that the government
I just say because that's what Sweden does.
Yes.
So you would support more of a flat tax and increasing taxes on the middle class and the lower class.
I want a progressive tax.
Okay, well that's not what happens in Denmark.
They should change it.
Okay, so you would want a lower corporate tax rate.
Not necessarily.
Okay, so here's the one thing. We point to, and I appreciate you taking, what was your name again?
Yusuf.
Yusuf, I appreciate Yusuf taking the time. Everyone give a hand to Yusuf. Appreciate it very much. We'll grab someone else here. Thank you, Yusuf. This is always interesting.
Yeah.
Fucking ridiculous.
And so this is the point I want to make also, is that, you know, he didn't let Yusuf finish his comments about Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, but then towards the end of the conversation, he wants to go back to the topic.
Yeah.
If you had to let him finish his points at the start, you wouldn't have had to have gone back and done bullshit.
Yeah. I also want to read some of the comments. Let's read some of the comments.
Well, the synopsis is like he was humiliated by a kid. He lost his temper almost, straight up.
Taxes are immoral. All right, when there's no one to pay for the police and someone comes into your house with a gun, then we'll see who is the immoral one.
Crowder's always whining about being the victim. I mean, he's been playing that game for years. Ever since, remember when, like, he got into some kind of scuffle with some union dude way back in the day? Like, that's when he learned that playing the victim card was profitable. And he's been using it ever since.
I wouldn't mind seeing that Joe Rogan versus Steven Crowder video. The heated argument.
I saw it. It's pretty good. Like, it's long. They argue about more than one topic during that show. Joe Rogan recently destroyed Dave Rubin. That was an interesting show.
I need to watch that too. There's just not enough hours in a day for me to watch all that shit.
Yeah, instead you talk about, I don't know.
I don't know. I come on and I exchange thoughts with my friends and people who want to call me a fat socialist. And
he just started fucking flipping out. You guys are bullies. Fuck you, you fat socialist. You're living in a dream world.
He called me Michael, and I'm like, why are you calling me by my dad's name? It didn't click. Mike Moore. He thinks I look like Michael Moore.
He's CIA.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
he knows your history.
But I was just sitting here going, why are you calling me by my dad's name? That's fucking weird.
I didn't get what he meant either.
I knew, and then it just dawned on me, Mike Moore. Yeah.
I think he called you that before.
Mike Moore doesn't even have a beard.
I've never seen him with the... No, I think I've seen him with the scruff, but I've never seen him with a beard.
No, dude, you'd have to start taking regular estrogen injections to fucking like Michael
Dude,
Moore.
that is so mean.
You look too manly to be Michael Moore.
Hey, Ben, how's it going? So you're coming on to confess your love for Steven Crowder?
Yep, he's coming on to defend Crowder. Watch out.
Yeah, I could. I don't know if I could tolerate much more of that guy in like a month period of time.
Do you want to go back to TYT and Jinx?
No, I'm just saying that guy was really funny, and really like he was just all in that guy's personal space. I thought originally, I was like, because you don't see that guy doing that back to him. When he talks, he doesn't flail his hands all around and get like all in his business. And it was just like the guy was like on like a manic outburst, getting off on being on stage, getting off on his own like thinking that he's right. Like, I mean, it's one thing whenever you're part of an audience and like and there's sort of like your Fox News is telling you what to think, and then you watch Fox News and then you hear the things that you already think and you think, oh yeah, I agree with that. That's one thing. But then when you are the guy that's purveying this stuff, and then you glow, then you like, take in this big crowd's energy and stuff, like that's what you see there.
Yeah.
The case of that kind of gone wrong or gone awry. our kind of worst case scenario of douchebags. So pretty rough. I want to see the Joe Rogan thing, but you know, like I said, I think like a little bit of that guy goes a long way. I think I have to like detox now for a month.
Yeah, he's a bit of a jerk. He's a jerk, motherfucker.
Yeah. He's a dick calling other people dicks.
Yeah, exactly.
No, he said, I know that you're being rude. You know, you're being rude and not looking me in the eyes or something. Like it's so sexual. Like he just wants to get closer, like rub the dude's leg or something. But it's like honestly, like he said he's being rude. I thought that guy was rude as fuck.
Yeah.
So it's just so funny. Like he's all like flailing his hands like 6 inches from his face and stuff. Like really fucked up.
Is it the latest? No, it's not the latest one, is it? It's a year ago. How many times has he had Steven Crowder on his show?
I think twice. Like
3 times.
They're long podcasts, man, and some of them are about topics that I'm not interested in at all.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, like, I'll listen to for the full 2 hours. Not too many of them, or sometimes they last even longer. But a lot of the times, I don't make it through all of them.
Yeah, if I don't know the person that he's interviewing, then I've really got no interest in what they've got to say. Like a guy from MMA, like, dude, we don't even get MMA on the fucking TV, so because apparently it's too violent.
I'm not interested in MMA rankings or something. I don't bet. Like,
so this Steven Crowder interview went for 4 hours.
Wow, that's a long interview.
Yeah, but Steven Crowder could fucking talk the arm off a fucking disabled person.
He can be funny at times, and like he can talk a lot, and those are his talents.
hang on, watch this. I have started watching it because YouTube sort of saves it.
We can't go through that shit, man.
Can I just play this like little snippet, and it's exactly what Steven Crowder does to this Yusuf kid.
Sure.
And then Joe Rogan sort of shuts him down. Well, I think he does anyway. But yeah, I don't want to show my porn like that. Here we go.
2016.
Good.
Holla.
Yeah.
Holla at Colorado.
Yeah. But another thing that we just wrote about, and again, people get mad with the weed issue. Well, no. Traffic fatalities regarding marijuana have skyrocketed.
Google that, because that's nonsense.
No, we wrote about it.
Drunk driving arrests have dropped. What do you mean you've... First of all...
No, we wrote about what the sources there, the original studies.
Just because someone gets in an accident and they're high. See, because... Hold on. Stop.
No, hold on a second. This is
you interrupt way too much. You need to stop.
You talk in paragraphs.
Hold on a second. No. I don't talk in paragraphs. I make full points. If... people are high.
It's such a cheap trick, dude.
The same amount of fatalities.
Can't you understand a paragraph? Maybe that's the issue.
Get checked once they get into these accidents happen to be high. It does not necessarily mean that marijuana caused those fatalities. It could be that you have an increased incidence of people doing marijuana and altercations that could not have been avoided.
It could be.
It could be.
But the statistical change is measurable.
Well, what is it?
From pre and
You're
post.
talking about in Colorado.
All right, enough of that torture.
Got it. You're talking paragraphs. Stop it. You're talking in paragraphs.
What he does is he memorizes basic...
No, stop. You're talking in paragraphs. Sorry, gay man.
But he just memorizes these simple rhetorical tricks, and he uses them over and over until someone catches him on him, and then he'll use them less often, or maybe he'll stop using them.
Yeah.
He's smart enough to move on to the next dumb rhetorical trick, but like he's not smart enough to stop using them entirely and actually come up with valid points.
Yeah. I just
he really enjoys the I guess the bells and like he like enjoys the decorum of like being smart, or he like enjoys the air of being smart without actually being smart. Like
it's like
I think he feeds on this like as if he's smart. Like he feeds on that notion. But yeah, it's not happening.
What you see in him is like good level high school debate, or maybe like good year freshman college debate. Like if he were a senior in high school, or a freshman or sophomore in college, you know, you're good debate team material, dude.
Not really, because Yusuf owned his ass, and Yusuf's in high school.
Yeah, like, but when you see high school debate teams, he would be pretty good for one, definitely.
I see like a halfway decent, like.
You ain't in high school anymore, Steven. You're debating high schoolers and losing.
But hey,
I think he has like the language skills of like a car salesman, like a mediocre car salesman. I don't know. I really think the guy's a complete tool, and really is vapidly saying he's just like fickle, just sitting there saying nothing, just talking to hear himself talk, and happened upon a crowd because, you know, he's probably that guy he was alluding to that's doing it for money, trying to persuade something for money.
Well, Joe Rogan goes on to crush him by saying that the population of Colorado has increased. Therefore, naturally, traffic fatalities would increase. And the other point he brings up is that THC retains in your system for up to 30 plus days. So every time they register someone that got into a crash, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were high. It just means that they had smoked in the last 30 days. Because the testing still isn't, or at least at that time, wasn't on par with, you know, what was actually going on. I think they're getting better at it, though. Like, they're able to tell the amount of THC decay you have in your system, and they're trying to base sentences off of that. At least there's a move for it. But Steven gets crushed in that one, too. And throughout it, he uses the same dumb rhetorical. You're talking in paragraphs, the same lines over and over that he tried to use on that kid.
Yeah. It's funny because I think Joe Rogan kind of knew. And his first thing is, I'm talking about paragraphs, I'm illustrating a point. And he's shut him up. It's good. Joe Rogan is good. I mean, I don't agree with him, but the way that he conducts his interviews and stuff, he does it well.
I agree with a lot of Joe Rogan's points.
I don't. You would, because you're part of Illuminati, but that's fine. We all know that.
I think Joe is a little bit in the golden bubble. I think he's a little bit outside of normal reality at this point. And
I think that's kind of fair, but he also talks to a lot of people. He also keeps kind of fresh. But I just think that I usually find it pretty interesting when I tune in. I usually tune in longer than I intend to, and basically, whenever he talks about MMA and stuff, I look at that as like him being legitimate and true to himself, and staying fresh with that. So, you know,
that's fine, man. He's got a wide variety of topics.
A lot of details, a lot of history about. It's cool to hear anybody talk about anything that they have a vast knowledge and experience around, like whether it's like movies or like, you know, if you know a lot of facts about a bunch of old movies or something, or anything that people really, you know, been observant, seeing the history of something, you know, those aren't that bad of conversations either. Saw a couple recently, okay. Well, I mean, definitely it's cooler if you know somebody on there, the person he's interviewing, but I think with his style, he's and with his that's what just makes him is that he kind of makes it interesting. He kind of keeps it relevant. He kind of got a good gauge, pretty solid gauge for, you know, both being really rational and kind of fair and keeping with topics. I think that's the thing, is like what makes Joe Rogan great is that the topics really can. There's really like this is a fun topic, and let's just go ahead and talk about that for a while, and like until it plays out, like not, you know, jumping on too fast, or then maybe even staying on too slow. They're probably going to err in the side of like staying too long on the topic. But anyway, yeah, it's good stuff though. I mean, like it is way too much content. I mean, for people to really be expected. I was wishing I could, like, you know Joe Rogan and be like, Joe, you compile a list of like 50 of the best interviews, because you know, if they did it publicly, he'd probably consider all kinds of politics and stuff, right? Like all kinds of like, I have to include this person because I really like them. But like actually though, there must be like 50 or 100 of like the best shows. And I don't know if I just trust some random thing online, but honestly though, I would rather kind of start there and watch those first. But you know, how do you really know? I guess you could look at the likes. That would be one thing. But like I remember the Eugene Cordero or some guy was on a Scott Aukerman podcast, and he was like, "Say you have 700 hours of free time, listen to the Scott Aukerman show." I think it was literally like podcast 700, and they always go over the hour over and over. So,
I think one of the best Joe Rogans I've seen was man, I can't remember the dude's name, but I want to say it's Theo Jansen. I don't think that's it. But what this guy does is he goes around the world and he exposes himself to like extreme cold. Like he dips himself in ice water for hours, and he's able to exceed like normal human tolerances. And it's well recorded. Like it's well documented that he's doing these things. And he can stay at like some insane temperature for, it'll just outright kill a person in half the time easily. And he can do all these insane things with his body. And he was talking about that. And he was talking about how it's possible for people to resist fire to a degree, and how a Buddhist monk can sit there and light himself on fire and not just freak the fuck out. That was a really fascinating conversation, but it was one of those that it's this dude that you probably never would have heard of otherwise. So I catch some of those sometimes.
So did Joe do a good job during that one, like teasing the topic out and like giving him space and being sensitive to what was being said?
It was a good interview. Cool. The topic was really cool, and like that guy's fucking abilities are beyond belief. Like unless if the documentation wasn't as solid, and I'd have to go back and look up the sources, but it was solid documentation of these things. And just what this guy's able to do just exceeds fucking belief. Like he could run in ice storms, he swims through like ice cold lakes, and he runs for another 4 miles, and just all this crazy shit. Stays submerged like without breathing for like 8 minutes plus. He's like, the cold can allow me to not breathe longer. It makes you wonder what the limits of human abilities are.
I wonder if that's like a gene or if it's like conditioning or both. Genetic.
It's hard to tell.
Like you get struck by lightning or something.
There's a show that remember Stan Lee, the guy who wrote a lot of comic books, created a lot of comic book characters, Marvel. He had a show, I think it was called, gosh, I can't remember. It was a show, but it just had like superhumans, right?
I remember seeing a couple of episodes of that.
Yeah, and so he kind of just it's called Superhumans. So he just goes around and finds people that have just extraordinary abilities like that. There's just something that, whether it happened to them or they're just born with it or they just developed it, that they're just able to do spectacular stuff. And like there's one, and they try to measure it. They try to do like scientific stuff to find out why that they're able to do what they're doing. And I think there's plenty, but there's one that was he's like an ultra marathon runner, and he's like in his either 50s or 60s, and he can do these super marathons and these super it's not triathlon, is it? It's the ones where you do swimming, bike riding, and running.
Like a triathlon.
Yeah, okay. Super triathlons, super marathons. And they're wondering, how does he keep doing? Like, he's not super fast, but he just can keep going for like, I don't know, 18 hours, right? Just keeping at his same pace. And the thing is, his body doesn't produce lactic acid like normal people would. So after you do something, lactic acid builds up in your body, and that's what causes all that tiredness, soreness the next day because your body's trying to clear out that lactic acid. So this guy wasn't producing them, so he was able to keep going like the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah, I get a buildup of lactic acid when it's a cramping stage when I get out of bed to go to the toilet.
What? Really?
Oh yeah, fucking oath.
Holy smokes.
Dude, I used to referee basketball. After refereeing three games of basketball, which are only 50-minute games, dude, I'd be cramping like a mother.
Wow.
Okay, so that ice dude's name is actually Wim Hof, and he was able to use meditation to stay submerged in ice for 1 hour and 53 minutes without his core body temperature changing. Since then, he's climbed Mount Everest in his shorts, resisted altitude sickness, completed a marathon in the Naim Desert with no water, and proven under laboratory setting that he is able to influence his automatic nervous system and immune system at will.
Yeah.
So
that probably means most people have an ability to like do that a degree, right? Like wiggle your ears.
No. I'd imagine we all do that to a degree. I mean, of course we do. We all resist degree and fatigue to some degree or another. So we're all doing it. It's just a matter of to what degree and what factors influence it. Like you said, it's probably a combination of genes and environment.
Cultivation or something, yeah.
And this Wim Hof, he talks a hell of a lot about state of mind. He's convinced it's only his state of mind that allows him to do these things. That and physical training, some physical training, but he puts much more emphasis on his state of mind.
Yeah.
I wonder what his IQ is. I wonder if he's like a great artist that's like super eccentric or something. Like a lot of great writers and a lot of great people, like sort of people that's like sort of off the charts weird.
There's all kinds of exceptional people like that, people who seem to have these abilities. But that's one of the best proven examples of it that I've heard of in a while.
Like wasn't Einstein weird? Wasn't he weird? Like doesn't he just have a weird aura about him? Like
I don't know.
Like just like a weird glance all the time, weird look, a weird smile, like something.
People said the same thing about Rasputin and Crowley and Madame Blavatsky. They said they had these auras about them, and Madame Blavatsky had that stare. People would talk about her stare.
You and your Illuminati friends. My goodness.
You're just jealous, but you're the one studying this shit.
Yeah,
so I can to it at night.
So I can destroy them.
I'm the one.
So I can destroy them. You will be destroyed.
Broadcasting it. I think we know who the occultist is, who the Luciferian is of the channel.
That's you.
It's not the one with the blood red Linus picture, that's for sure, right? All right, you guys, it's pretty late. I think I'm going to bed.
Yeah, it is pretty late. Well, anyways, everybody enjoy your Friday the 13th, especially you damn Illuminati. Fuck you guys.
Have a good night, you guys.
Good night. Good night, Ryan. Good night, Ben. Good night, everybody.